Hi, this is Barbara Modi reading Chapter 1 of Crafting a Getaway. This book started from a simple idea. I read that Canada has more unsolved crimes than almost anywhere else. And they figure it's because it's such an enormous country, small population, inhospitable climate, that it's kind of a place where you can disappear and start a new life. So if there's not a story there, I don't know where there is. Chapter 1. The woman leaned forward over the counter and handed me a gray baby cardigan. For my neighbor's daughter. She looked past to the big semicircular window and its view of the sea. This place is the best kept secret in the country, she pronounced, here in the middle of nowhere. Do you know how lucky you are? I think we do, I said. I took the small sweater and folded tissue paper over the tiny garter-stitch cuffs, pearl buttons, and miniature buttonholes. Those aren't easy to do. You mean the store? It's been in the family for generations. We always sold tools and fishing gear. The crafts are new. I slid the little package into the brown bag I'd stenciled with Crafters Co-op, Gasper's Cove, Nova Scotia. We made these gray baby clothes because they sold, but our older knitters couldn't figure it out. What was wrong with yellow, turquoise, or even melon, they asked. Something more cheerful, like the babies themselves. My customer passed me $100 bill. On her left hand was an engagement ring with a stone so substantial it was set deep into the gold, with no need for a prong setting to amplify its size. On her right hand were even more shimmering stones, but I saw no family ring like the ones local women wore, with a birthstone for each member of the immediate clan. Your store is a hidden treasure, so quaint. So simple, the woman said. But so is everything else. The coast, this island, I didn't know places like this existed. She ran her fingers over the smooth contours of a hand-carved driftwood bird. You know, I used to make things myself years ago. She sounded wistful. I want to get back into it, release my creative energy. Maybe the retreat will help. The retreat? This got my attention. I'd organized the crafters for the first one next month. Was this lady one of our students? I was thrilled. I'd ask her name and look her up on the list. I think you're going to enjoy yourself, I said, more loudly than intended. August is lovely this time of year. We've got great workshops, quilting, knitting, rope weaving. Shadow, the store cap, interrupted me. She jumped up onto the counter and reached across to bat a cross-stitch bookmark onto the floor. Leaning over the edge, she studied it, pivoting her beautiful ears backwards so she wouldn't miss any of this conversation. She lifted a paw to stroke whiskers and to cover her smirk. August? The woman was puzzled, irritated. You've got that wrong. It's next week. My fiancé's here for meetings. I decided to show up, surprise him, and do a little something for myself. The clasp on an ostrich leather handbag snapped open. Here, let me show you, she said, smoothing out a computer printout with her fancy hands so I could read it. Escape to beautiful Gasper's Cove. Learn new creative skills from local experts at a crafter's retreat. Starting Monday, June 8th. Sign up for one or all of the following workshops at the historic Blue Nose Inn. Monday, North Atlantic Knitting, Thrummed Mitts with Bob Willett. Tuesday, Gifts from the Sea, Woven Reclaimed Lobster Wreaths with Sylvie Kullberg. Wednesday, Quilting at the Cove, a table runner with Catherine Walker. For further information, please contact Valerie Rankin. It sounds great, doesn't it? The visitor's face gleamed with retinol, excitement, and hope. Terrific, I said, forcing a smile. I needed time to think. Shadow jumped down to stick-handle the bookmark across the store's 100-year-old floorboards. You wouldn't want to miss something like that, I muttered. I felt seasick. The woman was here a month early. How'd that happen? My customer, now my student, was oblivious to my panic. Hey, the woman said, snapping her glittering fingers. I have an idea. You're crafty. She waved a black linen arm around the co-op. Why don't you come too? Learn something new. Maybe they have space. Call this Valerie Rankin person and find out. Do you know her? I nodded. Yes, I did. She was me. The customer's name was Laura Sanders. By the time she left, I knew her fiancé was Parker Wallace, very wealthy, very important, and head of East-West Media. Laura, clearly impressed with herself for snagging such a great catch, told me Parker was in Nova Scotia to explain to small rural newspapers that his takeover was the best thing that had ever happened to them, despite what anyone else might say. I also learned from Miss Sanders that her fiancé's meetings were to be held at an inn. I knew as well as I knew I was not hosting a craft retreat there next week. The Blue Nose Inn was owned by my cousin, Rolly Rankin, and Catherine Walker, the town's former librarian. Catherine had gone into business with Rolly to keep herself busy while she waited for him to propose. The ramification of the scheduling disaster crashed over me. Who else thought the retreat was next week, not in August? What if other students showed up at the inn for workshops that didn't exist? Who would trust someone to run classes if they couldn't keep their dates straight? There was only one thing left to do. This was an emergency. As soon as Laura Sanders left, I called Darlene. Darlene was a cousin on my mother's side and my best friend. If I was in trouble, she'd know how to get me out of it. She always did, every time. Darlene picked up on the first ring. She listened calmly while I told her what had happened. How do I fix this? I asked her. I had such big plans. It's a mess. Give me a second while I think, Darlene said. This wouldn't take long. My cousin was good on her feet. She had a lot of practice from decades spent standing behind the chair in her basement beauty salon and then from door-to-door campaigning to be deputy mayor. First, how did you miss this? She asked. Weren't you keeping track of registrations? I was, sort of. I pulled the book with the names of those who signed up out of a drawer. I have it all here, the receipts from everyone who came in to pay. I'm looking at it now. All the dates are for the first week in August, exactly when I told Catherine we'd be there. That sounds okay, Darlene said. But what about this woman? You said she had something printed off a computer? Yes, she did. Then it hit me. The town. I sent them the information for the website. You know, things to see and do in Gasper's Cove. Did I get that wrong? I pulled the co-op's old laptop toward me and clicked on the page. Oh, shoot, I said. That's the problem. I must have made a mistake when I filled in the form, switched the months and dates, put them in backwards. It's dealing with tourists. I get used to the American way, month, date, year, not like we do it in Canada, date, month, year. I changed August 7th to July 8th. What an idiot. I'd ignored numbers my whole life. This was their revenge. I signed in and clicked the registration button. It was far worse than I thought. I don't believe this. There are 4 women signed up for next week. What am I going to do? The inn's booked for some corporate media thing. Catherine's my quilting instructor, and she's going to be busy. Next week can't happen. I don't have teachers, I don't have space, but I can't cancel on these ladies. That would kill my reputation before I even have one. Relax. So you made a mistake. Big deal, Darlene said. This might be better than you think. How's that? I asked. My cousin had been an optimist, almost to the point of being ridiculous, ever since we had met, just outside our mother's wombs. But if there was a bright side to this, I couldn't see it. It's obvious. I could tell Darlene was proud of herself. You find a way to make it work. Don't worry about space. I'll find you something in the municipality. You just make sure this first group gives you rave reviews. That way you can advertise the next session in August as backed by popular demand. So popular you had to run 2 sessions. No wonder Darlene had made it in politics. I knew I'd been spun, but it gave me a sliver of hope. The waves of anxiety were now ripples. You can find me a nice place, I asked. A great place, Darlene said. I'll pull strings. Now, remind me, teachers, who are they? You'll need to get them organized too. Okay. Sylvia's making wreaths out of reclaimed lobster rope. There was a silence on the other end of the line, except for the sound of meowing in the background. Darlene had a large and floating population of rescue cats. I'd lost count of how many. Reclaimed rope, she asked. You mean from boats? Where did Sylvie get that? From some guy with a blimp who's mapping algae. He says it's washed up all up and down the coast. He sees it from the air and picks it up. I knew this sounded crazy. He's part of Sylvie's eco network, I explained. They met at the Great Beach Cleanup. Her rope wreaths sell better than the one she made of plastic debris. Don't knock it. I won't. Darlene kept moving. Who else you got? Catherine's doing a table runner. It's cute. Waves and little whales. Who could teach that workshop now? And Bob Willett is doing the knitting class. Mitch, you know, the ones with the wool roving inside. Right. Nothing warmer. Darlene paused. I didn't know Big Bob knit. I heard tiny pellets dropping into tin bowls. The meowing stopped. He does very well. He dyes his wool with something called rescued lichen. He came up with the idea himself, I added. Sounds like something he'd do, Darlene said. In a community full of eccentrics, Big Bob was respected as the master of them all. All right, this is the plan. I find you a space, you round up the teachers. Then let these 4 ladies know there's been a change of venue. If I were you, I would run out and have a word with Roy and Catherine. They need to know the town advertised something that isn't happening at the inn. But get organized first. Catherine is someone you go to with a solution, not a problem. She's not going to understand this, I said. Catherine does not like the unexpected. She likes the alphabetical. She'll kill me when I tell her what happened. I doubt it, Darlene said. No one gets killed over an innocent mistake. That's what they think. All right, that's chapter 1 of Crafting a Getaway. Talk soon.